right, welcome in. Wrong side of the pond. He is DJ Schweitzer. I am Jeremy Lance. DJ, we made it. Finally, the MLS season is starting this week. 2 months later than it normally would. Or I guess about a month later than it normally would. Not that bad. But the wait felt longer. I don't know about you. I think it's because of how early things ended last season. The wait has felt so long.
It really has, and I think if you're a regular listener of the show, it's probably been like the last 10 episodes of the show. We've probably been like, the domestic season is nearly upon us, and
it's coming.
We're almost there, and we are literally on the cusp of the domestic season. I tweeted out today, I think MLS starts this week. And I can, in fact, confirm it starts on Friday. Like, we get Major League Soccer on Friday for the first time in 2021, a regular season match. And then everyone plays this weekend, which makes for a really fun weekend of Major League Soccer ahead. And as we do every year at this time in the season, we're going to give our full 2021 prediction for the Major League Soccer season. So we're going to do our normal playoff predictions, tell us who we think is going to win the Shield, the Cup, award winners, the whole 9 yards, and even give you a few things that we're each individually looking forward to this season, as is tradition. So big episode as normal for us as we hit, number 26 in season 8 on the year. So anything we should get into before we actually hit the MLS stuff? I think we're going to shove a little bit of the European stuff to the end of the show, which is a little bit different than normal. But anything you want to touch on?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we have I guess we have a regular fantasy update, but also like a reminder, hurry up and hop into our MLS Fantasy League is starting this week, obviously. So go sign up. We've thrown it out there on social media, on generally on Twitter, a handful of times. Come find our league, join it. I don't know what else we're offering with that. That's your department.
Yeah, my department is Added Time Outfitters is going to be given monthly prizes, as we do with the Premier League as well. So if you can finish on top of the league, at least points wise, in a month, you will earn yourself a free Added Time Outfitters wristband. So definitely jump into that. If you are going to remember the code, you got a pen and paper ready or handy, or maybe you got a good memory. The code is 9EVHHHED. Or you can just go to our social media and click the link. It's probably.
I kept looking at that code like, is this supposed to be like, is this just a random series of numbers, or is this like supposed to be spelling something out? I'm like, 9EVED? What are we doing?
No, it's just a random sequence that MLSsoccer.com generated for me as I came up with the annual league. But no, if you don't have, that photographic memory or, a pen and paper ready, go check out my or Jeremy's social media feeds. You can check it out there and get yourself involved and potentially get yourself some free swag. We do have a bunch of MLS wristbands on the site, and we will be debuting several more before the season is out, in addition to over 40 existing designs that we have in the cache for teams around the world. So make sure to join the Fantasy League. This is your chance to get a fantasy update as well from the Premier League side of things. I suck. Jeremy sucks. We both fell places this week. I fell to 49th. You fell to 90th. Tyler Kelly, 14 shows in a row that he's been sitting on top. But watch out. Longtime listener and podcast favorite, Jay Slack, now in second place. He's just 58 points back with a few weeks to go.
The ringer coming for you.
Big deficit to erase, but if anyone can do it, it's Jay Slack.
I mean, the dude's a ringer, so I would hope so.
Yeah. So there's your fantasy update on both sides of the pond, as everyone will love an extended fantasy update at the beginning of every show for the foreseeable future.
I mean, I at least have two friends that always tell me, like, yeah, I normally fast forward to that part.
I normally do too, and we record it. So that is your fantasy update. Let's get over to 2021 MLS predictions. If we had a jingle, we'd play it here, but we don't because that's the type of podcast we are.
How excited are you?
I'm feeling pretty excited. And I feel like, again, this is something that we keep revisiting. Like, hey, man, are you excited for the impending start of domestic soccer? And yeah, I am. It feels a lot more real now. Like the CONCACAF Champions League games that have been on have been a nice little teaser and preview into the season to a certain extent. You're starting to see promos like on ESPN and Fox Sports for the upcoming start of the season too, which
I think there's like 5 national broadcasts this weekend.
Yeah, which is a great way to kick off the start of the campaign. And
although they count that Twitter broadcast as a national one, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a loose one.
We'll give you a half credit on that one.
We'll take it. Anything's national at this point with streaming.
I like to go into my local bar and be like, hey, can you turn on the Twitter game?
Well,
what channel is it on? It's on Twitter.
It's on Twitter. You can get that on your TVs, right? It's a smart TV, hopefully. But no, I am excited about it. Obviously, this is another kind of weird campaign. It's not going to be as weird as 2020 was, obviously.
It'll be essentially a real season.
Yeah.
With all playoff format is back to the 2019 format. Like we're not having like everybody make the playoffs like last year. We're not having the MLS is back tournament, although don't tell Toronto that because they're stuck in that exact same stadium for the next who knows how long down in Orlando. But like it's a legit stadium. There's gonna be a little bit of wonkiness, but everything's a little wonky these days.
The other thing is it's Major League Soccer. Like everything's a little wonky in Major League Soccer.
I mean, if there's a chance to be a little goofy.
Oh, yeah. And I started to do it back at the beginning of this segment when you were like, it's going to be a real season. And all I could think in my head is like, I'm a real soccer league. Like that's kind of how Major League Soccer feels a lot of the time. And it's fun to laugh about it. And sometimes it's frustrating. But I freaking love Major League Soccer for how quirky and weird it is. Like that's kind of like one of the things that makes this league fun and different than the European season is like nothing makes sense in MLS. Like in Europe, you're kind of like, oh, the big teams are the big teams, and you kind of know what you're going to get out of them roughly each year. In MLS, anything could happen for the most part every year.
It's kind of better, right? Like,
it's different flavors, right? And
we get a lot more. There's a lot more variety and parity as far as who's good.
Look, we've already scared off all the pro rel people from the show years ago, but
yeah, they've lost our number a while back.
Yeah, but look, I like the oddities of Major League Soccer, and they are what they are, and we're going to be stuck with them until someone has the gall to change them. And yeah, I'm excited for its return, and am genuinely looking forward to watching copious amounts of it this weekend.
So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with just kind of giving our playoff teams, East and West? Do you just want to do that to kind of kick it off?
I mean, it seems the best way to go about this, right?
Sure. Now, did you put these in any order, or did you just grab your 7 teams?
I for the sake of actually getting these things on paper, I did put them in order because I felt like I could just throw them at the wall.
No, I did too. I just didn't want to. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we both had that. But
yeah,
that's cool. I mean, do you want to go with the ranking? Like, give me your order.
Yeah, I think we should. There's no sense in changing up the format in year 8, right?
Nah.
Yeah.
No, we're generally set in our ways on how we do everything. So
proper old man style. So what? It's 7. I said 8 a minute ago, but it's
7. Yeah,
7 teams that make the playoffs this year because, as you stated earlier, not everyone gets in this year. Like that's
right.
That was
we're not allowing 10 teams.
That was ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
So we've got 7 teams. Let's start in the East because, of course, that's where we find ourselves and probably the teams that we're most familiar with. And honestly, there's a lot to be excited about in the Eastern Conference. For a while, the Western Conference was kind of stacked, and now the East kind of feels like the conference where there's just a lot of teams that are potentially good and potentially playoff worthy. And I don't know about you, but the East, like the bottom of the East, felt a lot more difficult for me to pick than what I felt like the bottom of the West looked like.
Yeah, because I mean, I think out East, I know like the top like 4 teams that I was like, these are absolutely, bang on. These are going to be there. They're going to be the contenders all year. And then it was like, who else is going to be able to put together a good campaign? And I think there's a lot of options. You could go with, some stretch, some kind of some reaches there with some teams that, it would be a big deal if that happened to them. You could go with some teams that on brand name alone should be there, but like maybe they're not going to be good this year. It was a little tough. It was a little tough. I mean, I feel like the West, it was like the same 7 teams it normally is. It was just about what order do I want to put them in.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Well, should we start at the bottom of the barrel, or
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So who do you have in 7th place in the East?
In 7th place in the East, squeaking in just to keep their I don't know how much of a streak it is, but just keep kind of their brand of being a good MLS team alive. New York Red Bulls.
Yeah, the Red Bulls were one of those teams that I felt like were really on the bubble this year. There's a lot going on at that club.
There's a lot of just question marks of like, what's the plan here?
They have Frankie Amaya now and like 8 other guys that are roughly the same type of player as him. And I don't want to begrudge Frankie. Like, I think this is a good opportunity for him. This is a club that is known for developing players and getting a lot out of them and launching them into bigger and better things. So I think there's a lot that makes sense about Frankie moving there. But I do find he'll have a lot of competition, and he may find himself sitting on the outside looking in a lot of circumstances. And it's a big risk for him. But aside from Frankie, there's just a lot of question marks that are going on within that organization right now. And for a team that was so clearly defined for such a long time, they are definitely in search of identity, I feel like, a bit at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like the big name team that they've been with kind of, I mean, obviously this is the team that had Terry Henry there for a while. It was Bradley Wright Phillips when he was just scoring goals at will. It was a team that had some big names around it, had some big, some big name coaches around it, and I don't know. I feel like they're kind of lacking both of those at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something amiss in the equation in New York, right? And maybe they've just kind of run out their mojo. Maybe they wrote out the wrong coach a little too long after Jesse Marsch left. There's a lot that needs to be kind of squared for them to get in. And I actually didn't have them making the playoffs this year. Like I thought long and hard about whether or not they should get in, and there's just a lot of teams that I feel like are going to be competing for that last final 7th playoffs place. And for me, I went with a really homery pick in that I think FC Cincinnati are going to squeak in. And
that's why I originally had on this spot, and then I got chickened out. I chickened out on.
I feel like maybe I'm giving them a little too much credit because we've not actually seen them do this yet. But I do feel like they're a team that has made a lot of moves and on paper has a lot of potential. And if they can get a lot of things to click, or at least a few of them to click, I think they could find themselves in this type of position. I don't think it's a guarantee by any stretch, but I think they've got what it takes to potentially get into the playoffs. I also could see it not working out and them finishing bottom of the pile. And that's not necessarily at fault for all the effort they've done. I think they've really poured a lot into reconfiguring this team and trying to get into pieces to make them successple. But it's basically a brand new team, and it's a lot to ask.
There's a lot of question marks, right? Like I think you put it in a correct way. Like there's all these pieces brought in. It's a new setup essentially. It's kind of a restart, and the pieces are there that if everything clicks, like this could be a really good team.
Yeah.
We kind of, I mean, not to the same extent, but we sort of thought that last year, and none of the pieces clicked, and it was a really bad team, and that can still happen this year.
Yeah, there's reason to be optimistic, and there are a lot of people nationally that are quick to crack a joke at FC Cincinnati's expense, and we're certainly
They've
close to
earned
the
it, right?
fire. Yeah, well, they certainly
Well
have,
earned.
and whether or not everyone here wants to accept that they've earned that is fine. But I think there's reason to be optimistic about this squad, and I think they've got what it takes to potentially make some waves this year.
Going back to Red Bulls real quick, like they have one DP currently.
Yeah,
This is
it's
just
just
not their style, right?
doesn't exactly feel like marquee market to me with one
Nope.
DP.
Nope.
Yeah, far cry from the days when they had Thierry Henry and Rafa Marquez and you know uh, several other players of note trouncing about at Red Bull Arena. So um, we were talking about New York Red Bulls potentially being in that bubble spot. I feel like NYCFC, despite everything that they are, I think they're going to be a little bit down the table a little bit, and I have them actually in sixth this year.
I have them in fifth, so I'm not too far off on that for you.
Yeah. It just new coach again, lots of change,
Yeah.
still playing on the baseball diamond. Just
I feel like this is a side that, for better or worse, definitely had an identity for the first several years of the organization, and I feel like they've been chasing a new identity for probably the last 3 years.
yeah, and showing signs of it, and maybe they're gonna get there. But I just think there's a lot of other things going on north of them in the table that will push them into this particular position. One of those teams that I think everyone was a little surprised by, but if you pay attention to things, probably weren't that surprising last year. I think they'll find themselves back in the playoffs in a very dangerous team. New England, I have them in the fifth position.
I have them fourth. So real quickly, I have Orlando sixth.
Okay.
That's my sixth place team. I think they got some decent pieces. The real question mark there is like Pato could be a really good signing, could be completely worthless.
Yeah, I was
And if they're
listening
pinning
to.
a lot of their hopes on that, like this could go bad real quick for them.
Yeah, I was listening to Extra Time Radio today, trying to hear what some of their takes were on it, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but they're like, "Is it 2007? Like, are we really trying to get hyped about Pato right now? Like,
Hey, Pato and Nani.
yeah, right. I mean, it really does feel like a vintage game of FIFA going on in Orlando at the moment. But no, I'm with you. I have them in fourth place, and we're talking about these players, right? Pato, Nani. Nani's actually been pretty darn good for Orlando since he's arrived there, and
Yeah.
I think the X factor really with Orlando is Oscar Pareja, right? Like, I think he's the manager that really makes this equation work. And Orlando were a bit of a trash fire for a majority of their time in MLS. And he's really come along and steadied the ship and quickly got them playing a much better form of football. And I really think Orlando is primed to be very good this year, especially if Pato can find his feet quickly.
Yeah, so you mentioned you had New England fifth. I have them fourth. Listen, I think New England, and you said it, dangerous. I mean, this is a Bruce Arena side, so that means it's a side that if they get in the playoffs, all bets are off. Like
Yeah.
this team can make a run. Bruce Arena can get a team, an okay team to make a run. I think this is actually a pretty decent team, with some solid pieces. Boaz, I still think is a great signing for them. We got to see a lot more of that last year,
Yep.
and I think that's going to continue this year. I think he's going to continue to eat up defenses.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I definitely was going to highlight him as well. And I think they brought in some pieces to really further accent him. And Arena's the type of guy who knows how to build around a proper piece. And I think he's continued to do that, and they will continue to be threatening. So we've covered all the teams that you and I have had between fourth and seventh now. We've literally not mentioned three teams yet, and I'm really curious who's going to fall in these top three, because I kind of feel like they're going to be the same three teams, and it's just going to be a matter of like where we're positioning them. So Give me, who do you have in third place for 2021 in the East?
In third place, I have comeback team of the year, Atlanta United.
That's exactly what I have as well. I was tempted to take them a little bit higher, but there's a lot of unknowns going on with Atlanta
Right. I mean,
United.
it's still going to be a learning curve for them, right? New manager, new pieces in. There's going to be some feeling out of their situation, but all in all, you got Josef Martinez is back. He looks good. Some of their other pieces in the CONCACAF Champions League matches have looked good. I think they're going to be back to where they were before last year's debacle happened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year blew up on Atlanta United. Before 2020 blew up on everyone else. 2020 hit them just slightly earlier than it hit the rest of us. And yeah, I mean, I think having Josef back is going to make things just a different situation there. Being able to balance their attack, I think they've got some good pieces defensively, and being able to balance that finally with a threatening attack, a guy who's a literal pit bull in the box, can create chances for himself out of nothing. I really feel like they're in a good position to attack.
Mm.
You mentioned earlier on, it's still weird to even think about. Gabriel Heinze is now the manager at Atlanta United, the famous Argentine defender, played at Manchester United amongst a number of other places. And he's had himself a decent career coaching, and he's taken up the Atlanta United reins after the Frank de Boer era, and that's changed. This is three managers in what, 3.5 seasons, 4 seasons now for Atlanta, and that's a lot of turnover. And despite all the pieces that they have available to them, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, especially if Josef takes some time to find full fitness and is scoring boots again.
Yeah, but all in all, yeah, I think they're going to be a good team.
Hmm.
Also, and these are kind of like some small X factors for them, but it good chance that like Atlanta home games are going to be pretty full of fans a lot earlier than other places. So
Yeah.
and that is an advantage. Like playing in front of a big crowd as a home team is an advantage, and not everyone's going to be able to do that right out of the gate. And not everyone's going to be able to do that probably till like midsummer. And Atlanta's probably going to be able to do that like I don't know, Saturday. I don't know. Are they
Yeah,
home?
right.
What do you think? Like,
Yeah, I've not heard yet whether or not they're going to have any sort of restrictions on there. I was thinking earlier on, you know, I bet both the Florida teams are really kind of hoping that, Georgia keeps the lid on things a little bit tighter, so that way they can most likely lead the attendance charts for the first few weeks of MLS.
right.
Florida's literally been open since the start of the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta is very likely to have, even a half capacity crowd at Mercedes-Benz is what, like
35,000.
30, yeah, right? Like that's an obscene number in its own right. So, yeah, I think everyone's going to be thirsty to see the return. I can't imagine that Georgia won't show up for an opened Atlanta United game either. So, more power to them, I suppose. Hopefully you've got your vaccines if you're planning on attending. But all that said, yeah, I think if they can have some fans and get some momentum behind them earlier, that'll definitely be something that a lot of teams will have a hard time replicating in the early parts of the season.
Who you got number two?
Philadelphia. I don't.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
gonna go lockstep the rest of the way here.
yeah, I think so. I'm sure you probably have Chicago at the top of the rankings too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was either them or Miami.
Yeah, right. FC Cincinnati. No. Columbus is the team that we both likely have at the top. Um, I think those are probably the indisputed top two teams in the East at the moment. Philly maintain very balanced. Same with the
Mm-hmm.
Crew. The Crew can somehow manage to
Drew
get
got
deeper.
got better.
Yeah, I don't. Seems absurd. Picked up Bradley Wright Phillips as their. I mean, dumped Fernando Adi and replaced him with BWP. Like that's just stupid.
Like they
Uh,
have that guy to just pop off the bench when they need it. Like, hey, Go run around for 15 minutes and go
Amazing.
get.
It's an amazing situation to find themselves in.
The
Uh,
rich get richer and the poor get plastic drapes.
yeah, exactly. And Philadelphia, I think, will be very good. It's very difficult in MLS to repeat as supporter shield holder. And look, I think Philadelphia will certainly be in contention for that conversation as well. But I think the Crew are too good and somehow managed to get better. And I think they're going to be fighting on a lot of fronts, I think, for a long time into the season, at least as things currently stand. And they're going to need every bit of that depth if they're going to find themselves at the top of the standings.
All right, let's move out west. Who do you got 7th place?
Seventh place. This one I went with San Jose. Just wild attacking style, a fun coach to watch. Literally, if you haven't watched much of San Jose, do it. Like they are like anything can happen in those games. Like they could literally, it could be a 6-5 barn burner. One team could score 4 goals. It may not be San Jose. It'll likely be the other, but like those games are guaranteed excitement. And I think they made some interesting moves this offseason, and I think could potentially finally have all the pieces together to land themselves in a playoff spot.
So I have them in 6th place. In 7th place, I have the LA Galaxy.
Ooh, see this much like what I did out east, and it seems like you're doing kind of the same thing here.
Yep.
You're taking
Yep.
that the behemoth who just barely slips in.
Find a way, yeah.
Reminding ourselves it's like all those years in the 90s when the Lakers were garbage, but they'd slip into the playoffs in the NBA, right? Like this is kind of the same type of situation here with LA just straggling along.
Yeah, I think they'll figure it out. I mean, obviously, I think the advantage for them is I see them as a side that might go make a big move in the summer window.
Mm-hmm.
And that could kind of give them that boost to make a run late in the season to get themselves in contention.
Yeah. Remember too, they're in a rebuild process with Greg Vanney now at the helm at LA Galaxy. I kind of get the impression that he's going to take a little bit of time to build that thing into the Greg Vanney picture that he has in his mind for LA Galaxy.
Sure.
I'm sure you're just secretly hoping for Chicharito to have a decent season.
I mean, he's got to be a contender for comeback player of the year because literally anything, any stats for him will be better than last year.
I mean, seriously, if you had rolled me out in a Chicharito jersey, I think I could have probably put in similar performances most of the time.
Yeah, it was, and that'll be the X factor. Like, I mean, if Chicharito goes off and has like a, Carlos Vela, from like 2 years ago, type of like 2018 Carlos Vela performance, like the Galaxy could actually be like, 3rd or 4th. Like he could probably shoot them by himself into like the top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
If he has a great season.
Yeah, we talked about this before with Chicharito. He's a great finisher, a great poacher, fox in the box type of guy. But unlike Vela, he's not the type of guy who creates for himself a lot of the time, right? And
yeah, he's gonna need service.
Yeah, and unless LA have really retooled in a way that I'm not yet aware of, I'm skeptical of their ability to find themselves improved from last year.
I mean, you have Sebastian Lletget as soon as he returns from sensitivity training.
Well, get ready for that.
Who do you have in? So I had San Jose in 6th place. Who you got in 6th?
In 6, I have Colorado, and I felt like this was harsh because I feel like
I did not have them in the mix.
Yeah, I actually think they could potentially find themselves higher up the table than 6. I think they're, and I'll get into this later in the show, they're a bit of a sleeper pick. I think they were playing better football at the end of last year than people were probably aware of. And I don't know why. They've drafted well. They've continued to assemble pieces well. I think they're in a good position to potentially be a decent team this year. But yeah, I think the Rapids will snake their way into the playoffs this year.
So I have in 5th place I have Portland.
Okay.
I think they're gonna be good, but I think the top half of the West is it's very strong. So I think that they're probably gonna struggle to get too high in the standings, but I think they'll be in that fifth place, fourth place kind of range, and
Yeah.
that's why I see them landing.
Yeah, I actually have them in third, and kind
Okay.
of felt similarly to you. I felt like, hey, if everything is clicking for them, they could find themselves to be a really good team out west.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think third is like their ceiling.
Yeah, but I at the same time, I feel like it wouldn't be weird if they finished like in seventh, right? Like I feel
Right.
like if they have some injuries, maybe if Valeri starts to show his age a little bit more, maybe they're not going to be, the team that they may have been in the last few seasons. But yeah, I think they're definitely going to be in the playoff picture regardless out west.
Fourth place. Or who do you have? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Who do you have
yeah.
fifth?
So I didn't actually do my fifth place. So I have Seattle here, our reigning
Okay.
champs. I
Wow.
worry a little bit about the Jordan Morris situation, and being
Sure.
without him. And sure, they've got a lot of other pieces out there. Nicholas Ladero is still there and awesome. But they're a team that tend to be a little slow out of the gates. Brian Schmetzer is figured out at this point that you don't have to. He's kind of like taking a Bruce Arena approach to the
Yeah.
season. Like, you don't
You
have
don't need to
to.
start trying until like July.
Yeah, right. And now that this is going to be a bit of a more regular MLS season, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a little bit more of that as they slowly get their feet underneath them again. And I don't think they'll be overly concerned to find themselves lower in the positions in the playoffs because they've won out of those positions before. So, I expect the Jordan Morris thing will lag a little bit for them. It'll leave them a little bit more exposed. And they'll definitely make it into the playoffs. And maybe by the time that happens, Morris will have made some miraculous recovery, and we'll be able to jump into the playoff race at that point.
So I actually have Seattle in second place. I think they're going to be the Seattle we know and love. I think they're going to be contender. They're going to be tough. I think Rui Diaz is going to have another monster season. Yeah, I still really like them. You're right. The Jordan Morris thing is a situation that could hamper them throughout large portions of the season. But I think overall, I think they're just still good enough to and there's just that pedigree within the organization that like they're gonna make it work.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm not trying to toss that out the window by any stretch. I think they're definitely look. Again, if like maybe the Morris thing won't be as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be. Maybe they'll hit the ground running this year too. I don't think two's an out of this world prediction either. Like I think they're definitely a team that could be way up in the conversation. I mean,
Who do you got in fourth?
so in fourth place I have Sporting Kansas City, right?
Okay, I have them in
Yeah,
third.
yeah. So I think that they're in a bit of a transitionary state right now where they're like transitioning into these younger players, and I think too we're seeing Pete Vermes really adjust his style. Like he's
Yeah.
really differing a little bit from what we've kind of gotten used to with Sporting over the last few years, and I think they are a lock-in favorite for the playoffs. And the real question is like, how much of a home field advantage are they going to earn for themselves? I think if Busio can really be the 10 that everyone sold him out to be, I think they could be a really, really good team. And I think have the potential to even be challenging for MLS Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. If he can be the 10, that also opens up the other avenue of I think Pulido will continue to grow into this league
Yeah.
and really take hold of it. And again, I think he's a guy that it could put in a monster season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I have Minnesota United in fourth place. They had a phenomenal season last year. It's a club trending in the right direction, and I think they're going to keep the train moving there, and I think they're going to be one of those consistently tough out teams in the West, and they're going to find themselves firmly in one of the good playoff spots there.
Yeah, I actually had Minnesota the Loons all the way up in second place. I think they are.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot of potential this year, and I think people will sleep on them because they were this garbage expansion team for a few years, and they did obviously get a lot of new faces into the organization last year and kind of surprised people a little bit, but I think they've really gotten themselves into a good position. They brought in a new attacking midfielder and Emmanuel Reynosa, who I think is really he's got a lot of potential to change the type of attack that they've gotten. They lost Kevin Molino. Molino somehow ended up in Columbus. That's one of those questions that I'm like, how did the Crew make that work? But
Still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I really do feel like they've got a pretty good player in Reynoso that it can potentially make them a really big attacking threat.
So I think we've listed everything 7 through 2.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves us both with the top spot, which I assume is LAFC.
I thought we were going to go with the Whitecaps.
Well, I mean, yeah, it could be them.
Yeah,
I'll hear that argument.
Top team in British Columbia.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems almost a shoo-in now that we know that Carlos Vela is going to be participating in the league this year, right?
Yeah. But the question is, what Carlos Vela do we get? Do we get that 2018 Carlos Vela that was just owning this league and making it look too easy? I think, and then you have, you bring in a guy like Atuesta, and the big question with him is, does he have a great season? But does he have too good of a season? And somebody comes with a big check to buy him off their hands come summer, and then kind of their fortunes could change. But I think LAFC on paper right now still look to be the class of the West, and I think this is their moment, right? Like they've been sniffing at a trophy since day one for them, and I feel like it's gonna happen here soon. This should be Bob Bradley's year to do it. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think they are going to be the class of the West.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to not argue against that at this point. I mean, look, if Vela is a quarter of the player that he was in 2019, we're gonna get a really fun LAFC team to watch. And even if he doesn't post the same numbers that he had in that absolutely bonkers season, a really primed in tune Carlos Vela is unquestionably the most entertaining player in the league to watch. Like it's a must watch when you know that LAFC are going to be playing, and particularly if it's like a rivalry game. Like dude shows up for those matches and really cements himself. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned some of the new players that they have. A lot of their good returning players are back as well. And it's Bob Bradley, and much like a Bruce Arena or a Caleb Porter in this league, there aren't many managers that you kind of look at him, you go like, that guy knows what he's doing, and Bob is one of them. And I think with all of their attacking prowess available to him, it's kind of hard to see anyone else finishing above them in the West.
All right, let's have it. Your MLS champ is?
I'll be honest, I struggled and went back and forth on this quite a few times, and much like with the Supporter Shield, it's hard to repeat in MLS. And
all right, give me your Supporter Shield winner first.
Yeah, I think the Crew are going to win the Supporter Shield. I think they're primed and built for a long-term type of thing.
I'm gonna say LAFC beats them out, but I definitely think they'll be in that discussion. They'll obviously we pick them as top of the East.
Yeah.
MLS champ.
I have LAFC. I'm swapping you here.
Okay. I'm going off the menu a bit. I'm going MLS champ. New England Revolution.
Ooh.
Again, I'm saying if Bruce gets a team playing well and they get into the playoffs, all bets are off.
Get the monkey off the Boston back at this point, right?
I'm saying it. So that'll lead into the fact that manager of the year, if Bruce Arena can do this, he is the manager of the year. If he can get them on a run like this, playing that well, looking good into the playoffs, I think he can be manager of the year.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anytime Bruce gets in the equation, and we mentioned earlier, like if they're in the playoffs, that's a terrifying team to face. And look, I don't disagree with you. I think anyone can out east like put together the right equation and just blow through it. LAFC is just this monster block in the way of anyone else out west that I can't really picture anyone else out west doing it. But if there's anyone that can unlock Bob Bradley, it's the guy that showed Bob Bradley the ropes, and that's Bruce Arena. Like people sometimes forget, like that early dynasty that they had at DC United. Bob Bradley was one of the like key assistants under Arena, and when DC saw a little bit of a blip in their early dominance, it was because Bob Bradley went to Chicago and like figured it out.
And immediately won a title.
And immediately won a double, actually. It was a league and Open Cup double. So it was like I think those guys are just they're the cream of the crop in MLS coaching circles because they just know this league inside out. And yeah, I have a hard time saying like no, that's not going to happen. Like could totally see Bruce putting together one more fun run.
Before we get to the two player awards, who is your dark horse team? Just kind of like our Premier League thing, like just a team that's just gonna turn some heads and gonna have a season that people were not expecting on the whole.
Yeah, I actually briefly mentioned this earlier on, but I think Orlando is my dark horse this year. I think if they get everyone healthy and Oscar Pereja gets this equation lined up correctly, they could make a ton of noise and scare a lot of people and have a lot of experienced players who have a lot of big time game experience under their belts that can really elevate them to potentially good heights. So yeah, I've got the Lions in that position. What about you?
I'm gonna go with the other Lion, Gary the Lion. I'm gonna go FC Cincinnati. I don't have them in my playoffs, but I think that they will be right there at the very end and just missing out. But obviously, coming from where they were the last two seasons, that's a massive improvement, and I think that's what we're gonna see. It's gonna come up just short, but they're gonna turn some heads as far as just not being this seasons.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can avoid collecting a third wooden spoon in 3 seasons in a row. I think I heard you say
That's
this
cool,
earlier.
right?
Does that mean Yap Stam is your manager of the year, or are you actually going with Bruce in that category?
I'm going with Bruce.
All right.
The Bruce is loose.
The Bruce is loose. He is a big spruce goose landing up there in New England, potentially giving him a title, right?
Yep.
So let's get into that MVP award. Who do you think is going to be the best player in Major League Soccer this year, or perhaps the most important player in Major League Soccer?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Carlos Vela.
Yeah, I've got Carlitos down as well. Kind of hard to see. Maybe Joseph Martinez comes into that equation.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many good dynamic tens in this league now that I really feel like this could be any number of guys each campaign. But yeah, Vela seems like the guy most likely to hoist it.
Hold on. So Josef, Vela, Chicharito, who's comeback player of the year? Because they've all set themselves up for a comeback.
I don't know. This is such a weird award. I think it has to be Chicharito. Like if he has a marginal season, it's almost like anything better than the phoned in debut that he had in 2020.
But does he get the knock for the fact that like, Josef's coming back from being injured, Vela's coming back from making the decision to not participate, and Chicharito is coming back from not trying.
Yeah, I mean,
are the voters going to penalize him for that?
well, I think that's a little unfair to Chicharito. First off, that LA team around him was not good, right? Like
I mean, yeah, the whole thing was a bad scene.
they have like Sebastian Lletget, and that's like pretty much it. And that young kid that plays in the back. But like outside of that, there's just not a whole lot in LA's team last year. So look, I think he totally quit. Like he totally quit. But I think it was after he was like, I can't. What do you expect me to do with this? Like I can't.
What do you want me to do here?
Yeah, I'm Chicharito.
I can't work with this.
Yeah, I can't just incarnate goals for you in space. Like that's just not something I do.
Yeah, no, I think both good shots. Golden. Who's your MVP? You said Carlito too, right?
What's that?
Who? So you also said Vela for MVP.
I did, yeah.
Okay, so let's round it out. Golden Boot winner is.
Yeah, I think Josef Martinez. The reason why I'm going with him over Vela, who I think is gonna be in the discussion as well. Like I think it'd be silly to not have them in there. But I just Josef Martinez is like a I don't care, I want that goal type of player. They talked about this extensively on Extra Time today, so I feel like I'm stealing this a little bit. But like Vela will set up another player on his team for a goal, right? Like he'll make a sick pass that you weren't expecting, even though you were expecting him to finish it, and he probably would have. Like he'll give up that goal. Josef every time will shoot that, like every single time.
Yeah, he plays hero ball.
Yeah, like and for that type of player, I feel like that's the reason he'll end up leading the scoring charts.
I'm gonna go off the board a little bit from kind of the favorites. I'm gonna say Pulido.
Not a bad shout.
I think this is gonna be his like big. I mean, he played well last year, but and so did their entire team. But like, I don't know, last year just kind of got lost in just the nonsense that was 2020. I think this is gonna be his true like announcing himself in this league and kind of taking over and being one of those big stars.
I mean, he could totally be that type of guy. Let's all hold our breath, right?
Well, we'll find out. All right. The three things that we are looking forward to heading into MLS 2021. Just three things we want to see, three things we hope to see, three things we're excited to see, whatever it is. Give me one of yours.
Yeah, number one for me, and this is under the pretense that everyone is following good CDC guidelines and precautions, but I'm super excited for there to be fans in the stands again. Like I'm sick of banners in seats, and I want to see people in them and reaction shots and just to see people enjoying the sport. Like that's what the whole point of all this, right, is for people to come and watch these guys play. And
you want that stadium to have life and have an atmosphere, and you wanted that to be bleeding into that broadcast as you watch it.
Yeah.
That's what makes games great. And I was just talking about this this week with my coworker about the Premier League, and he was talking about how he's just really just like this season, granted partly because of the team he supports, but also because he was like, these games just feel dead. Like I have empty stadium fatigue. Like I'm just tired of watching these just soulless matches.
Yeah. So it'll probably disgust me on a few occasions, probably too. Like when I see
there'll be a few like moments
where I'm going,
a couple yikes.
Yeah, literally no one's paying attention to guidelines there. And again, it's going to be in like Florida or Georgia or Texas or something.
I mean, luckily FC Dallas just doesn't get people showing up to the games at any point in time. So
yeah, I remember.
You don't have to worry about Texas Rangers Stadium kind of thing.
Literally, everyone is already social distancing at FCD games. But all that said, I'm excited to see fans in the stands. What about you? What's on your list of three?
So that like barely made my it originally made my list and I pulled it off. So I'm glad you threw it out there. One thing I'm looking forward to I didn't do the research to figure out who possibly this might be. Technically it's we already know who it's going to be. It's going to be Daryl DK, but like the next young American to shine in MLS and get that big money move out to Europe, that big chance to further his career in Europe. I feel like we've had a nice run of that over the past couple of years, and I'm excited to see who that next player is going to be.
Yeah, Frankie Amaya making the move to Red Bull
Salzburg, here he
Salzburg,
comes.
right? Yeah. I think that'll be a good one. And yeah, seems like there's a good crop of players on the horizon that could potentially find themselves in that type of situation. And the American youth remain bright, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Something else I'm also really looking forward to in 2021 is we're getting 3 new stadiums in Major League Soccer this year. Like that is
Exciting.
I'm a stadium nerd. I love them almost in the same way that I like kits. And not only are we getting like 3 stadiums, but we're getting 3 awesome stadiums. Like Austin, Columbus, and Cincinnati are all building really cool grounds with all of the seating covered, which is we're finally getting these European-esque stadiums on the regular built in Major League Soccer. And I'm like,
which never made sense to me, guys. We're playing in the summer. Get shade going.
Get these people covered. I don't know if you've ever watched a game in Dallas in the midst of the middle of June. I have, and it is stupid hot out even at nighttime.
You know why? You know I haven't? Because I'm still alive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, otherwise you might actually be dead. But no, it's great that we're getting covered seats now for most of these grounds, and I'm excited. I'm hopefully going to make it to 2 of them this year. So really looking forward to seeing a few of these places and watching some soccer kick in some new places too.
One thing I'm looking forward to, and really just hoping for, and it's something I've kind of been hoping for this league to have for a while now. We have the rivalries, we have kind of the big marquee matchups of when the bigger clubs play each other. But I think this league sometimes can lack some organic drama. We like to have non-organic drama, but I would love to see, again, organically, a player or a club kind of become the universal heel of the league that is just hated and despised, and obviously that would require them to actually be good. And I would love to have that team that like just riles everybody up. Just kind of almost like the like a Dallas Cowboys, where it's like, yeah, everyone that's not a Cowboys fan absolutely hates them and hopes their team just murders them, or like a St. Louis Cardinals, where it's like these elitist douchebags, we hate them. These holier than thou nerds. Like everyone can't stand them, can't stand their fans. I want that. And Austin FC, I'm looking at you. I think there's promise.
Yeah, I'm a little.
You have to be good though.
Yeah, I'm unsure if they're actually going to be good. They've got, Tomas Pochettino is a really interesting signing. A lot of people are singing his praises. I'm not going to pretend to know much about him. I had to Google him to make sure he wasn't related to Mauricio. Like I was like, is this his cousin or his kid? Like I know Mauricio's son actually played in Spurs Academy for a while, but I don't know if Austin will be good. I think there are enough teams that hate them in principle for the crew situation and
right.
That whole type of thing. But this MLS does need a proper villain, and it's been a while since we've had like a good villain character outside of Zlatan, like that.
I mean, that was a great one. I mean, remember like Zlatan versus Vela, like that was so good that season.
Those El Tráfico matches were just like can't miss TV, like truly can't miss TV, and the league needs more of those. They need, and I think you're right. Like having a villain is a great way to sell yourself as a league, and hopefully we get that this year.
Gotta get somebody that can make some headlines.
Yeah.
What else are you looking forward to?
The last thing I'm looking forward to, and this seems petty, but I just want FCC to be decent, right? Like if they make the playoffs or they don't make the playoffs, I just want them to not be the laughing stock of the league this year, and I want that as much for the team and the players and the city and blah blah blah, but I also want it so the fans don't have to bicker about stupid crap, and they don't have to like get in weird arguments about weird crap. I want it to be about the soccer and like how the team is, and not them trying to drum up some other way of making some sort of relevancy here. And this team and this market have been blessed with like a really fun run, but the last 2 years have been chaotic and a little bit of like everyone's starting to point fingers at each other now, and I don't want that from a longevity standpoint in this city any longer. And I'm praying for anything short of not terrible.
That's a good hope to have.
Right.
My final thing that I'm looking forward to, and it's really not even looking forward to, is just I'm intrigued of where this goes next, is MLS. Their TV contracts will be running out very soon, and most likely the negotiations for this next one, and this next one, apparently the strategy is whatever it is, to the point where they've told teams to not have any rights contracts locally extend past this year. So there's some sort of big rights move on the horizon. It'll be really interesting to see which way it goes. I hope, again, my hope within all of this is that the league makes a move with this new rights deal that grows the audience and not just their wallet. Because there's ways you can make money. There'll be contracts out there that will make you money, but it won't necessarily help the league and markets themselves grow the game.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Lower barriers, right? Like that's the important thing for MLS still, is it's not an easy league to watch, right? Like you kind of have to search for it to know where it is. And I understand, trying to package all these things up, and the importance of potentially having that from a monetary standpoint. And the league needs a TV contract, right? Like they need this kind of bumper deal because they've kind of been betting the farm on that's what's coming. And I fear, much like you do, that they may go for that because they need it. And in the short term, they may get the things they need right now, but aren't going to set the league up for good success down the road. And I really fear like the idea of them moving to an all streaming package, because there are a lot of fans that still need to be reached through like in-market television and over-the-air television still. And I do really feel like part of the growth that FC Cincinnati have seen here has been due to the fact that they've been available on like the most accessible television station in the Cincinnati region, in Star 64. And that really exposed the team to loads of fans that I think they wouldn't have otherwise reached. And I hope MLS doesn't turn their eye to that type of situation moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. And obviously, even from a local standpoint, you mentioned FC Cincinnati. They well, not they, but the people that run their broadcasts teased on Twitter that there will be an announcement as far as what their streaming option will be this year, as they, like everybody else that joined Flow Sports, left Flow Sports last year. And basically the last couple matches, basically you could just stream for free on the team site.
Yeah.
And so they're supposedly going to announce whatever that plan is. Obviously they have their local TV deal on Star 64, which is great. It's a channel that you can get like over the air with an antenna, that's about as accessible as you can get.
Right.
So that's just, you just got to hope for more of that, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are the things that I'm looking forward to. Should we head over across the pond?
Yeah, not a whole lot that we're going to be talking about on the European side of things today, but a few things that we probably should touch on Jeremy tossed this one in. I just want to make it clear that I did not add this into the running order and that I would have been happy to just skip right over this topic.
Unfortunately, our MLS preview did not run too terribly long, so we still have time for this one. And the question I pose is this: coming off of obviously another frustrating weekend for Tottenham Hotspur, and coming off on the heels of conversations and rumors about Harry Kane's future and possible bids coming in for Heung-min Son from Bayern Munich, has the window started to close for this Spurs era?
Yes.
I mean, it's not closed yet. You guys are still in a cup finale coming up here at some point. I don't know why we've buried that towards the end of the season, but
yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, that Caribou Coffee Cup final is going to be in like July or something. But yeah, I'm not pinning a whole lot of hopes on that thing either. But yeah, it's a very unsettling thought, to be perfectly honest. And we knew that Spurs have been at this crossroad for a while, right? Like Mourinho's in this position with the team now because they're at this crossroad, and they really were trying to search for that title to keep this team like together, right? And to keep people motivated to stick around. And it's proved elusive, and yeah, they've got a shot at it, but we're going up against world beaters Manchester City, and yeah, Mourinho might be able to pull some magic and win it, but is a League Cup final and win really enough to change Harry Kane or Heung-min Son's mind? I don't know. The rumors are really circulating right now that Kane wants out, and man, it sucks. Like I'm really I've been up the emotional roller coaster about this one because Kane, like, yeah, you could sell Kane off and get $1 gajillion for him, but he's not a player you just go out and replace, right? Like,
right.
And not only that, like, he's ours, like we made him, and that's like a once in a like, I probably will never see a Spurs academy striker that's anywhere near as good as Kane in my lifetime again. Like, I've thought a lot about this over the last couple of weeks. Like, I might have seen the best ever striker that's ever played for Tottenham. Like, and I will likely never see another one who's as good as him again. And that's sad to think about, because Spurs aren't like this cemented top 4 big club. And if he goes, like, it's hard seeing them being like this good of a team, getting to Champions League finals and, finishing second in the league. Like, those kind of things just don't seem very realistic in the near term.
Where did it go wrong?
I will tell you exactly where it went wrong, and I have 1,000,000% confidence in this. It all went wrong when they went 3 windows in a row without signing anyone about 2 years ago, when Pochettino was screaming into the media, like, give me anything. I need some money to push some fresh meat into this squad and keep it relevant and fresh and keep players challenged. And when they didn't do that for 3 years in a row, and then he still achieved what he achieved with this team, and then they fired him and gave all the money to Mourinho, that was a culmination of like a 3-year like screw up. And Mourinho, I understand why they did what they did, but it was a catastrophic decision. Why wouldn't you back the guy that transformed the club, and instead of bringing in this, as I tweeted, an agent of chaos who's doing exactly to this team what he's done to the last 4 clubs he's been at? It's just it's really easy to be like, hiring Mourinho is the problem. That's like the last stroke of the problem. It's not backing Poch when we clearly should have backed Pochettino.
Is Chelsea counted twice on that list of clubs that he caused chaos?
Nah,
we counted on there as 2 different clubs.
Well, you guys recovered all right in between. You won a Champions League, like have won some league titles in here and there, right? Like
we also actually won titles with him.
It's true. And
Like the years that we had, while ended poorly, there was something to show for it.
yes. And he has yet to show anything at Spurs. So yeah, I'm not counting Chelsea twice, although I'll give you guys once.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Um, anything more on that, or are you ready to go to Champions League? Are you done? Are you done having the therapy
I would love
session?
to get off of this topic. Let's just move away from it, please.
Champions League semifinal is set.
Hmm.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Um, Spanish royalty in Real Madrid, PSG, French super club, uh, president-elect Manchester City in the Premier League, and fifth place Chelsea. Here we
Yeah.
go.
What the hell are you guys doing in there? Just
Who invited that guy?
it's like one of those things where like you look up and you've like slept your way into a really cool like concert, like you fell asleep when everyone was doing work, and then you wake up and you're in the middle of like a really big thing. Chelsea totally just like found themselves in the Champions League semifinals.
Yeah, and it's I was I was joking with the guys at work. The parallels between this Chelsea and this run and 2012
Oh
Chelsea
man,
and the 2012 run
I
are
knew this
kind
was
of
coming.
eerie.
Oh yeah.
Like we're at the moment not in a Champions League spot. We finished sixth that year. Um, we fired our young promising manager midway through the season, like we did then when we fired AVB. We played a Portuguese side in the quarterfinals. We played Benfica then. We played Porto this time. And in 2012, in the semis, we had to get past Barcelona. We have to get past Real Madrid this time.
Lots of similarities there.
Yep.
I'll
And
tell you. I'll tell you what's
and
not a
we're not that good.
yeah.
Also
I'll tell you
similarity.
what's not a similarity. Tuchel is totally the rich man's Roberto Di Matteo.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, definitely an upgrade in that department.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it's a fascinating series of semifinals. On one side, you have two teams that have won the Champions League. On the other side, you have two teams that have not yet won the Champions League and are desperate to do so to prove themselves as the super clubs they aspire to be. Meanwhile, you've got it's weird almost to call Chelsea old money at this point, but we may as well call you guys old money when looking at the other final or semifinals. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be a really fun series of games. Like there's a lot of cool narratives to analyze between both series of semifinals as well as the teams themselves. It's going to be a good end to the European campaign if we're allowed to watch it off the paywall.
Yeah, so it'll be City versus PSG. So, I mean, obviously, just two very very sexy clubs with great players and some of the best kind of in the moment players. And then you have Real Madrid side and Chelsea. You know, Chelsea going up against two of their former stars in Courtois. I mean, that they will be going up against Courtois. I don't know. Is Eden Hazard still employed by them, or is he on the Gareth Bale plan? Is he just golfing?
He's not golfing. I think he's just saddled up at the buffet up in the club section probably. Just packing on the pounds for next season probably. But yeah, it's certainly some cool narratives that are wrapped up there with the relationship between Chelsea and some of those big stars at Madrid. Two, you look across and you get to see some really interesting managers. Obviously, Zidane looking to prove himself without Ronaldo for the first time, potentially lifting a Champions League crown. You got obviously Tuchel, who's had a very chaotic kind of stretch at Chelsea, interestingly, despite starting so well for the club, just being a really interesting tactician. And then over in that other final, you've got Pochettino, who's, obviously proven himself on the European stage on several occasions, going up against like Mr. Champions League manager and Pep. So we're getting treats all over the place, not just on the pitch, but also in the dugouts too.
So 2 of the 4 managers took over mid-season. That's kind of wild.
That is kind of wild.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for Chelsea. I don't have too high of hopes of them actually doing anything.
Sure.
Still not sure how they got this far. I thought Atletico Madrid was going to be our out, but apparently we keep playing on. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I think the semifinal. How Tuchel approaches that. I'd imagine it'd be fairly similar to how he approached the last 2 matches. We're going to just try to eke these things out by very low margins. Probably what we're going to do in the final, too, if we make it.
What one would expect.
Here's one for you. What if City and Chelsea make the final? Not only do you have 2 English sides, but you have 2 Americans then technically on the match day rosters for a Champions League final.
Yeah, that means that both of them will ride the pine for the entirety of those matches, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Pulisic has plenty of time to blow a hamstring between now and then, so
maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Winners and wankers. I think that's where we're at.
Winners and wankers. Your wanker.
My wanker. I'm going with an easy target in Iranian State TV, who managed to. They did have the Manchester United Spurs match on this weekend. Many disappointed Iranian Spurs supporters out there, I'm sure. But I'm going with the State TV for it, not because they showed the match or whatever, but because they cut away from the live coverage more than 100 times to avoid showing female assistant referee Cian Massey Ellis.
Just couldn't do it. It'd be like, is that like a blasphemy law or something?
She's not covered. I really don't know what the reasoning is for it, but they really didn't want.
I'm surprised they just didn't put a giant censor bar over her.
Or just blur her out. Like the days of the NHL when they used to have the glow over the puck.
Yeah, that's right. Just put a glow around her so you can't really see her.
Yeah, well, is that a woman under there? Can't tell. It's unclear.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. So my wanker are all the people who think everything soccer must be just like they do in Europe. I don't know if you saw. So Racing City FC had their debut match. They got a 2-2 draw off a equalizer at the death. The stadium had a big little light show celebration that, may or may not have been a bit much. But then came all of the Euro snobs saying that, hey guys, that's not how you would do it in Europe. So that for that reason, you should not do that, and you are now bad.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that the shutting off all of the lights and flashing them all.
The shutting off the lights just seems like a logistical issue and a safety issue.
Yeah. Also, I felt like I was immediately going into seizure in the midst of that. So if that was happening to me on the TV, I can't imagine that there aren't people who might find that same risk in stadium. But despite all of that, totally, like, this is America, right? Like we're allowed to do things different.
Right.
We are allowed to take ideas from other countries. I know we've done a lot of that here. But we're also Louisville's allowed to do their thing. Cincinnati is allowed to do their thing. Chicago is allowed to do their thing. Everyone's allowed to do their own thing. So long as you're not making your experience impede on someone else's, who cares how you're celebrating your soccer?
I feel like a lot of those people may belong to like supporters groups that probably aren't doing things in a truly European fashion. Like American supporters groups definitely have a different vibe to them than European ones. I feel like they oftentimes actually more mimic Central and South American supporters groups in kind of
Yeah.
their more festive nature instead of their more let's fight afterwards nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people forget that a lot of the supporters groups in Europe are very tied up in like socio-political matters too, right? Like
Right.
they're very active in realms that are not just soccer related. So it's yeah, it's tough to see people holding that mantra. Otherwise, you're gonna end up looking like that dude down in Miami that was, threatening everyone on social media a couple years ago. He just recently followed me on social media as well, so I'm mildly concerned he might be listening to this.
You waiting for him to show up at your house?
Absolutely, the Miami Casuals.
You should be like, hey, good. I'm glad you're here. We're moving soon. I'm gonna need you to help me get some
Yeah,
furniture from the
box,
upstairs to the downstairs.
get a couple of these heavy pieces down here for me. You look like you've got some muscle on your back.
Your winner?
My winner this week, I'm going with Granada native Olmo Garcia, who's famous in his home region of Spain for climbing on top of things and being naked, so much so they call him the Naked Guy in Granada, which is just an amazing title to be given anywhere. But made his way into the Granada Manchester United Europa League match as a streaker, which is an incredible achievement in its own right, given that there's no fans in the stadiums right now. But what extra makes this amazing is, and I'm normally not trying to celebrate streakers because it just impedes on a lot of things. I do think they're hilarious in most circumstances, but dude had to sneak into the stadium in the morning and hid under the tarps over the seats for 14 hours. Like, that is dedication to your craft. And
It's a good thing he was naked because I'm pretty sure the air circulation under those tarps weren't really that great, so it was probably steamy under there.
Especially in Granada too. It's got to be a little spicy there this time of year, a little humid maybe even as well.
Oh
So
yeah, and that heat's just trapped under that tarp.
he didn't intend to be naked for the streaking. He just he had to
It's
be.
so hot. I just kept taking clothes off.
Remember that scene in Ace Ventura 2 when he's inside that fake rhino and he just gets too damn hot, has to take off all of his clothes? He was birthed out of one of those seat covers. It was just too damn hot under there. Get me out of here. I was just trying to stay the night, but I need to get out of here now. Who's your winner?
My winner is American soccer. We're back, and even our women's game is on CBS Sports Network more than the Champions League.
Ugh, so annoying. I'm glad that it's on, but it is one of those things where you're like, oh, come on, CBS.
Like, so you're gonna put these, like, okay, but you're not gonna put that, like, you're not gonna put that on that's on the in the middle of the day.
Okay then.
Okay, whatever. But like, it's that time of year. Like, soccer's back. We're back. We're cooking. We got everything going. I can feel it. I can taste it, and I can't wait to see it.
Nice is almost back too.
They're back. They're playing games on beIN Sport for the 8 people that still have that channel.
Yeah, right. It's domestic soccer. Well, let's tune it on.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Nah, I can't do it.
All right, fine.
It's against my morals.
Yeah, right. That brings us to the end of this week's show. If you have anything that you want to get a hold of us for, get a hold of us at Twitter. Jeremy's on Twitter at Jeremy Lance. I'm at Wrong Side of Pond. There's your MLS preview. We'll do like our favorite kits next week. Definitely let us know what your favorite kits are in Major League Soccer for the 2021
and least favorite.
And least favorite as well, yes. We'd like to know what's terrible. Probably all the white ones.
Everybody's a away kid.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, folks. We'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty, bye.